Hey guys, it's Arrott from Peregrine here, back with another video. Today I wanted to dive into the subject of pour-overs. I can almost guarantee if you did a poll of the coffee industry, that's coffee roasters, baristas, whoever, and asked them, hey, what was the drink that really got you into coffee? A large portion of those people are going to say, well, I had a pour-over that really blew my mind. In fact, my coffee journey I can trace back to a single instance. When I was a student at Texas A&M, I went for a pour-over at a little coffee shop called Harvest Coffee Bar there in downtown Bryan, Texas. I had a cup of coffee that really changed my mind about coffee. And so that is kind of the power of a pour-over when you think about my trajectory from just being a college student, drinking a cup of coffee, all the way to being a professional coffee roaster today. I can trace it all back to just great experiences with coffee. But enough about that. Forgive my brief moment of nostalgia. Today is about you, and today is about familiarizing you with pour-overs. And my goal really with this video is to make it simple enough to where if you have never had a pour-over, if you've never made a pour-over, this is going to be a great starting point for you. We really want to push into education in 2025, and we really want to make coffee accessible to you. So pour-over, you've probably heard of it. When we are making a pour-over in the shop all the time, we have people come in, they see me with the kettle, you know, kind of doing something crazy over here, and they ask, what are you doing? What is that? And I say, well, it's a pour-over. And they're like, oh, what is that? What's a pour-over? In the simplest terms, a pour-over is a manual brew method. So that means I control the inputs, I control the water temperature, the water flow, I control how much coffee is going in, all those things. So what do you need in order to make a pour-over? Firstly, you are going to need a pour-over device. And so today we're going to be using this Origami, which is a pour-over device from Japan. It's the one that we use in the shop when we make you a pour-over. You're going to need a kettle, preferably a gooseneck kettle. And the reason is because this allows you to really aim your water. You're gonna want a cup to brew into as well. You're gonna need a scale. There's lots of different options when it comes to scales. There are really high-end options, and then there's ones like these, probably $20, $30 on Amazon. We love this one because it weighs pretty precise, and then it has a built-in timer. That's really important to have some way to time yourself. And you will need a grinder. I know what you're thinking looking at this thing. It is absolutely huge. This is our old EK that we used to use in the shop. This is our original grinder over in the cafe. You do not need one that is as tall as I am, as heavy as I am, to make a pour-over in your kitchen. Really what you're gonna look for is just getting a burr grinder. And the reason for that is because blade grinders really do not have any consistency when it comes to grind size. And with things like pour-overs, you want a consistent grind so that you can have consistency when you brew. You're gonna need coffee, of course. Today we're gonna be using our brand new Ethiopia Guji. It's a natural processed coffee from Ethiopia that's gonna be really fruit forward. And this is the kind of thing that we like to highlight for pour-over. So the recipe that we're gonna be using today is actually one that I kind of originally borrowed and then adapted from a friend. Shout out to Zachary Innen. Met him when he was working at Lupa's back in the day in College Station. And he has continued to work in the industry. He's doing great things down at Blendin Coffee Club in Houston. Go check them out. Definitely give them a follow. So shout out to Zachary. And the reason that I liked his recipe is because it was so straightforward. So as we moved from V60, I found, hey, the same recipe works pretty awesome. And so this is the recipe that our staff is trained on. This is called the 5-pour method. And the reason that it's called the 5-pour method is because you are going to be making 5 pours. Here at Peregrine, we use a 1:15 ratio. We found that for our customers, they liked a cup with just a slightly more strength than that 1:16 ratio. But that ratio is grams of coffee to grams of water. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take this filter. This is a V60 filter. It's also an Origami filter. One of the cool things about the Origami is it will work with either the Kalita filters with all the ridges in it or this V60 filter. Crease it nice and flat down like that. You're gonna put it just over your cup, and then then we are going to rinse that filter. pretty thoroughly here with hot water. That's why it's nice to make sure your kettle is all the way full. And what that's doing is that is both rinsing paper taste out of the filter. It is also preheating your cup and your origami. So we've got filter rinsed, we've got cup preheated. The water is still set at 195 over here. So what we're gonna want to do now is load up our coffee. Like I said, we're gonna be using 23 grams in this recipe. You can adapt that however you want, find whatever ratio you want, but this is what we're gonna be using today. So you'll take your scale, set something you can weigh out your coffee into, and you're gonna hit tare so that it's back at 0 grams. And so I'm just gonna dump in this nice, beautiful new bag, which is super easy to work with. I'm gonna throw it up there, get ready to grind into my cup here. You hear that beautiful sound of our old grinder that has definitely seen better days. But you have some beautiful, really fragrant, well ground coffee that has a nice consistent grind size. All right, so let's get brewing. So we've got our coffee right here, I think you can see. Just gonna put that in. Now that I've dumped my coffee in there, I'm gonna just shake it nice and level, nice and flat there. I'm gonna zero my scale again, and I am going to start pouring. Like I said, we're gonna do 5 70-gram pours of water, keep it nice and segmented, and you're gonna hit the bed of coffee every 30 seconds. All right, and so let's start that right now and go. We're gonna start in the middle and make circles out and back in, ending with a pour in the middle right there. And now I'm at 70 grams. And so in order to really get things off to a good start, I like to give it a good swirl there, make sure my bed of coffee is saturated. This portion of the brew is usually called the bloom. As you can see, the coffee's kind of blooming up, releasing CO2. I'm at 30 seconds, I'm gonna hit it again. So I'm gonna go from 70 grams to 140. Pour overs make you really good at math. Simple math, at least. So I'm at 140 grams. I'm gonna wait for my minute time mark. And while I'm doing this, I'm not doing any more swirls. I'm just gonna do a swirl at the beginning and the end to initially saturate my grounds, and then at the end to help with the drawdown. So at a minute, I'm gonna go from 140 to 210. And you can see I'm just doing the same thing every time. Being consistent, not overly aggressive with my pours. You do want to be a certain level of aggressive. So something like what I'm doing right now. And so we'll wait a couple seconds. And at our minute and 30 mark, it's time for another pour. So we're going from 210 up to 280. You guessed it, 280. And the good thing about going off of these time segments is it keeps you pretty consistent to get to that final brew time. Every coffee is going to want a little bit different inputs, different water temperatures, different grind size, but ideally they're all going to funnel into that final brew time of around 3.5 minutes. Really, with the origami, we found that we like brews that are between 3 minutes and 3.5 minutes. You don't want to get anything that stalls out too bad and really starts to over extract flavors. And so after my last pour, which was at 2 minutes, I'm just going to gently swirl just to make sure all my coffee is nice and even there on the bottom again. So I'm gonna draw down at a good speed. So I'm going to stop the video here and then pick it back up when we're closer to that final drawdown. So as you can see, we are wrapping up here now. The last little bit of coffee is drawing down through the bed, and that is done right there. And as you'll see, I mean, that's a really pretty shot, but it's a great example of a nice, flat, even bed of coffee, which is really what you're gonna be looking for. That is a great sign. What you don't want is a brew that goes all the way to, let's say, 4, 5, 6 minutes. If your coffees are stalling on you, definitely try things like adjusting your grind size, paying attention to the way you're pouring. Whether that's a little bit of a swirl at the beginning and end of your brew, whether that is where you're pouring the water as you're brewing, everything has a purpose. So if you made it this far, you should now be enjoying a delicious pour over with me. I hope that is the case. Just wanted to say a big thank you to you guys for engaging with this YouTube channel and really diving in with us. We are so excited about the content that we're producing. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and definitely share with a friend if you think that they would enjoy learning how to make a proper pour over. That's definitely something that we are really privileged to get to be able to do, is educate people about coffee and how to make good coffee. So thank you so much.